Hello guys. In this video I'm going to explain something that almost nobody understands correctly when it comes to attracting wealth. Most people are working hard, repeating affirmations, watching manifestation content for hours, and yet their financial reality keeps looking exactly the same. And the reason is not that they are doing something wrong on the surface. The reason is much deeper than that. It is that they have never truly entered the inner feeling that wealth actually responds to. So in this video, I want to walk you through what Neville Goddard says on this exact page, and more importantly, I want to show you why money keeps avoiding so many people, even the ones who claim to want it the most. Stay with me until the end, because the part that really changes things comes later in the video. Neville says here, "You never attract that which you want, but always attract that which you are conscious of being." Read that sentence slowly, because almost everything you need to understand about wealth is hidden inside it. You do not attract what you want, you attract what you are. And when it comes to money, that is exactly why so many people stay financially stuck for years. They want more money. They think about more money. They imagine more money. But underneath all of that wanting, there is a quiet, constant inner feeling of not having it. And that feeling, the actual lived sense of being someone who lacks, is what gets reflected in the outer world, not the surface desire, the deeper identity. This is why two people can read the same book, watch the same teachings, and apply the same techniques, and only one of them ever sees real change. Because the one who actually transforms is the one who managed to enter a different inner state. The other one stayed exactly the same inside, hoping the outside would change first. Neville is telling you very clearly that this is not how creation works. The outside cannot change first. The inside has to change first. The feeling has to come first. And once that feeling becomes natural, the world begins to organize itself around the new identity in its own time and in its own way. Now think about how most people relate to money in their daily life. They wake up and the first thing they do is check their bank account. They look at the number, and depending on what they see, their mood changes for the rest of the morning. If a bill arrives, they feel a small tightness in the chest. If they see someone else succeeding online, they feel a quiet pang of comparison. If they spend money on something normal, like groceries, a small voice inside says, "I shouldn't have spent that." Every single one of these moments is reinforcing an inner identity. Every one of them is telling the subconscious, "I am someone who does not have enough. I am someone who has to be careful. I am someone for whom money is tense." And then the same person sits down at night and tries to affirm, "I am wealthy. I am abundant. Money flows to me easily." But the subconscious already knows the truth. The subconscious has been listening to the dominant feeling all day long, and the dominant feeling always wins. This is what Neville means when he says, prayer is the art of assuming the feeling of being and having that which you want. Prayer here is not begging. Prayer is not a religious word in his teaching. Prayer is the inner act of stepping into the state where the wish already feels real. It is assumption. It is occupation. It is becoming the kind of person on the inside for whom what you desire is already a normal part of your existence. And when it comes to wealth, this is the entire game. Wealth is not attracted by people who want it. Wealth is attracted by people who feel, internally, that wealth belongs to them. There is a difference between those two states, and that difference is everything. Now here is where most people get stuck, and this is the part you really need to pay attention to. When you try to enter the feeling of being wealthy, the senses immediately push back. Your mind looks at the bank account and says, "But the number is still the same." You look at your environment and say, "But nothing has changed." You look at your job, your bills, your obligations, and the senses confirm again and again that you are not yet wealthy. And Neville says something very specific about this. He says, "When the senses confirm the absence of your wish, all conscious effort to counteract this suggestion is futile." Read that carefully. Effort, in this context, makes things worse. Trying harder to feel rich while staring at a low bank account does not work. Forcing positive thoughts on top of a deep feeling of lack does not work. Pretending does not work, because the senses are screaming, and you are trying to scream louder, and the inner conflict only deepens the impression of not having. So what is the way? Neville says it is not effort. It is yielding. It is relaxation. It is gently shifting your inner attention away from what the senses are confirming and into the simple, quiet feeling of already being the one who has. And this is where the real practice lives, not in mental noise, not in repeating affirmations like a chant, but in the soft, internal sensation of having received, the feeling of relief, the feeling of completeness, the feeling of no longer being separated from the thing you desire. That is the seed. That is what gets impressed on the subconscious, and that is what eventually shows up in the outer world. And here is the part most people completely miss when they think about wealth. Neville says, imagine that you have realized your wish, not how it was realized, but simply the wish fulfilled. This single sentence dissolves so much suffering, because most people, when they want more money, become obsessed with the how. They think, where will it come from? Will it be a raise, a new client, a side business, an investment, a surprise? And the mind runs in circles trying to figure it out. But Neville is telling you very clearly that the how is not your job. The how belongs to a deeper intelligence than your surface mind. Your job is the end. Your job is the feeling of having already arrived. And the moment you release the obsession with mechanism, your nervous system relaxes, the inner state stops fighting reality, and creation begins to move quietly behind the scenes. This is also why so many people who attract wealth seem strangely calm, almost detached about it. It is not because they do not care. It is because they have already accepted the result inside. They are not chasing money. They are not begging for opportunities. They are not staring at the gap between where they are and where they want to be. They simply live, on the inside, as the kind of person for whom abundance is normal, and life responds to that frequency, not to the people who want the most, to the people who feel the most natural about having. Now think about your own life for a moment. When you imagine being wealthy, what does it actually feel like inside? For most people, it feels far away. It feels like a fantasy. It feels like something that belongs to other people. It feels like a story they are watching from the outside, not living from the inside. And that distance, that subtle separation, is exactly what keeps wealth at arm's length. Because consciousness is faithful. Consciousness gives you back what you feel yourself to be. If you feel like an outsider to wealth, the outer world will keep showing you situations where you experience yourself as an outsider to wealth. Not as punishment, not as bad luck, simply as a reflection. So the real work is not external. The real work is to slowly, patiently, day by day, begin to feel like someone for whom wealth is not foreign, someone for whom money is not a stranger, someone who is not surprised when good financial things happen, because internally they have already accepted them. And this is a quiet inner practice. It does not require shouting affirmations. It does not require pretending. It does not require denying your current circumstances in a forceful way. It simply requires that, more and more often, you return to the inner feeling of already being the one who has, the one who is settled, the one who is provided for, the one who is calm around money instead of tense. And Neville closes this section with one of the most powerful statements in the entire book. He says, all you can possibly need or desire is already yours. To the senses, that sentence sounds absurd. The senses say, no, it is not. Look at my account. Look at my situation. Look at what I do not have. But Neville is not speaking to the senses. He is speaking to consciousness. And in consciousness, the principle is that whatever you can imagine and feel as real already exists as a state waiting to be occupied. The wealth you want is not far away. It is a state of consciousness you have not yet fully entered. And the moment you begin to occupy it, even for a few moments at a time, the world begins to slowly reorganize itself to match that occupation. This is why so many people who change their financial life describe it later as a quiet inner shift first. They did not suddenly do something dramatic on the outside. They began in small, invisible ways to feel different about themselves. They stopped reacting to the bank account with anxiety. They stopped flinching when bills appeared. They stopped feeling smaller when other people succeeded. They began to feel, on the inside, like someone who belongs in the world of abundance. And from that quiet inner shift, decisions changed, behavior changed, opportunities became visible that were always there but had been filtered out before. People responded to them differently. Doors opened that had previously been invisible, and eventually the outer world caught up. So if you take only one thing from this video, let it be this: stop trying to attract wealth from the state of wanting it. Begin instead to enter the state of being the one who already has it inside. Not as fantasy, not as denial, as a quiet, steady inner posture. Feel less separated from money. Feel less tense when you think about your finances. Feel less like an outsider when you see other people prospering. And every time you catch yourself returning to the old identity of lack, gently bring yourself back to the new feeling. Not with force, with patience. Because as Neville says, the harder you try to fight the senses, the more the senses dominate. But when you yield into the feeling of the wish fulfilled, the senses lose their power, and the new state begins to take root. And once the new state takes root, your relationship to money begins to change in ways that surprise you. Not because the world suddenly became generous, but because you finally stopped sending out the signal of lack. You finally stopped confirming, every hour of every day, that you are someone who does not have. And the moment that signal changes, the reflection has to change too. That is the law. It is not personal. It is not unfair. It is simply consistent. Whatever you are conscious of being, you become. Whatever you are conscious of having, you have. So before you go, ask yourself this honestly. What am I actually conscious of being when it comes to money? Not what I say, not what I affirm, not what I post. What do I actually feel in the quiet moments, when no one is watching, when I check my account, when I look at my bills, when I think about my future? Because that feeling is the seed, and whatever that seed is, that is what will keep growing until you change it. And the moment you change it, slowly, gently, patiently, everything else has no choice but to begin changing with it. If this video gave you a deeper understanding of Neville's teaching, leave a comment telling me which part hit you the most, and subscribe to the channel if you want more deep analysis like this from his books. Okay guys, that is it for this video. I hope this gave you something real to sit with. See you in the next one.